You know what's better than Catsuit Mario? One of the most important games in Nintendo's long history, that's what. No offense about the catsuit thing, O'Malley. For years, Super Mario Bros. Was the franchise to beat when it came to 2D platforming. It seemed that every single installment brought something new to the table, each one taking advantage of the latest Nintendo hardware and featuring groundbreaking new ideas, all while supplying that tight, familiar platforming bliss that fans had come to expect. And then, for a while, there was silence. Nintendo and the other major gaming companies moved on to newer consoles and handhelds, and Mario seemed destined to a future that only involved 3D adventures and multiplayer spin-offs. The glory days of 2D platformers were long past, and for a time we thought that Mario's days of only moving left and right were over. But in 2006, Nintendo found itself in an odd situation. Its latest handheld, the Nintendo DS, was starting to be seen as only a gimmick with its two separate screens. And with the Wii set to launch in just a few months in an attempt to bring motion control to the masses, Nintendo needed to release a game that would prove that they still had what it takes to make a platforming classic, no matter what hardware it was released on. And thus, they announced a game that took the world by storm. The 2D plumber had returned, and while he had a few new tricks up his sleeve, Nintendo was sure to ring their message loud and clear. Mario was back! And then he was back again. And again. And again. Ladies and gentlemen, we are currently living in a world where the new Super Mario Bros. Is treated as a joke, because over time, Nintendo and gamers lost focus on what this little DS game was all about in the first place. These days, the 2D Mario titles have fallen into a familiar formula. Give the players 8 generic worlds, bring back a simplified version of a mechanic from a previous Mario game, add a new kind of power-up, and voila! Don't get me wrong, these sequels are still good, but they've completely forgotten what made New Super Mario Bros. So special in the first place. Let's take a trip back in time, shall we? When New Super Mario Bros. Originally came out, it was refreshing to see many forgotten series staples, such as mushrooms and gold flags, brought back to life in a colorful hybrid of 2D and 3D. But this game refused to focus just on straightforward nostalgia. Instead, it took every classic element of the original Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo Entertainment System and turned it up to 11. While the original had power-ups that merely doubled your size, this game had mushrooms that would let you grow to enormous heights and destroy miles worth of level design, or to shrink down and soar over it all instead. Meanwhile, the third new power-up added to this game was the Koopa Suit, which added a whole new level of complexity to shell puzzles from previous games. And while those 2D installments were very grid-based and rigid, this game delighted in bending pipes, tilting platforms, and anything else it could do to break up the preconceived rules that the Mario series had maintained up until this point. Even the encounters with Bowser and Bowser Jr., while originally appearing to stick very close to classic boss battles, evolved over the course of your adventure into entirely new experiences. You see, the last time Nintendo had made a 2D Mario game, they were in heavy competition with Sega and frequently regarded as the safer of the two companies, as opposed to their opponents' edgier and more experimental outlook. And with that in mind, New Super Mario Bros. Feels like Nintendo letting off years of pent-up energy and screaming, "Hey, we can be extreme too!" By incorporating Mario's more acrobatic and recent abilities and showcasing a new collection of vocal-infused songs that enemies could even dance to, Nintendo was able to show off a refreshing contrast to the original games, instead of just going through the motions. And while the sequels may have made dancing Goombas commonplace, it really can't be overstated how charming and personality-driven this was at the time of its release. All of these small subversions of Mario tropes made the game feel fantastic, made it feel great, made it feel new. There will be people that still make fun of the recent New Super Mario Bros. Games for their titles, and that's understandable. In all honesty, however solid these sequels may be, Nintendo seems to have forgotten what it was that made New Super Mario Bros. Stand out in the first place. It wasn't just about referencing the past like they're so often doing these days. It was about twisting and subverting the past into something cooler, something that managed to be both nostalgic and groundbreaking. This game was about taking advantage of hardware to show off the best that both 2D and 3D gaming could offer, and show us that even if Nintendo was becoming a different company, more experimental and aimed at including every one of their consoles, they still had what it took to conquer the platforming genre with a mixture of old and new. And to have pulled off a balancing act like that, I'd have to say that New Super Mario Bros. Is really freaking clever. Hey there, if you like this video, why not hit that like button? And hey, you can even hit the subscribe button right here on the screen. I've also got a ton of other videos about game design or made up lists of all the things wrong with different video games. And if you want to hear more about the crazy things that I'm up to, why don't you check out my Twitter, or the Facebook group, or the Instagram. I've got lots of ugly selfies on there. Because, you know, that's what the ladies like these days. Ladies like their double chins and their messed up faces and their bleh, bleh, bleh. How you doing? You're gonna be on the internet. The people will love you. They will praise your name. They will say, "This is O'Malley, the beautiful fat cat of awesomeness." You look so impressed right now.